Hello everyone. If you're enjoying this video, please hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what kind of stories you'd like to see next. Only a small percentage of people who watch actually subscribe, so if this one lands for you, consider hitting that subscribe button too. Check the description for the Patreon if you want more stories from me and my team. Also, the outfit from this particular tale is linked down there if you're curious. Now let's dive straight into the story. Maggie had been my girlfriend for years, and she was easily one of the most outgoing people I had ever met. We started dating back in college, and by this point we were living together in a shared house. She had long blonde hair and stood a little taller than me. I was on the skinny side, and our friends loved to joke that Maggie was clearly the one running the relationship. She was dominant by nature and also the main breadwinner between the two of us. She had a tight circle of about 5 women who were her closest friends. They did everything together. A couple of them had boyfriends, but most of the group was single. It was the holiday season, and Maggie announced she was hosting a small holiday get-together with her usual group of girls. Normally I made myself scarce whenever these all-female gatherings happened, but this time she insisted I stay. She told me I was going to be part of the party. I had no idea what she meant by that, and we didn't talk about it again for a few days. On the day of the party itself, Maggie had cleaned the entire house and covered it in decorations. I was in a festive mood and looking forward to the evening until she finally explained what she had planned for me. She walked up, took my hands, and said that this party was going to have a little twist. Usually their gatherings were strictly girls only, but she really wanted me included this time. Her idea was to dress me up so I could get in touch with my feminine side. I immediately shook my head and tried to back out. I told her it was fine, I could just leave. Dressing me up sounded like a lot of effort, and I wasn't sure I wanted everyone seeing me like that. Maggie stepped closer, took my hand more firmly, and asked me to do it for her. She said it would be so much fun and that it would turn her on to see me dressed up. Then she leaned in and kissed me. I couldn't refuse after that. I caved and told her I would go along with it. She smiled, clearly pleased, and said we needed to start right away because the whole process would take time. She led me by the hand into the bathroom, stripped off my shirt and pants, and had me stand still while she went to work with waxing strips. She waxed my arms and legs thoroughly, then gave me a full Brazilian. She held me down while she did it, and the whole experience left me feeling intensely feminine. Next she slipped one of her own black thongs onto me. It barely fit, but she told me I already looked adorable and that she was getting more excited by the second. Over that she fastened a sparkling blue bra and a matching short blue skirt. I protested that this couldn't possibly be the entire outfit. I felt like I was hardly wearing anything. Maggie just laughed and said welcome to being a girl, that I looked fantastic. She reached around and gave my ass a firm slap for emphasis. She sat me down in a chair facing the mirror and began doing my makeup. My features were already fairly soft, so the transformation into something much more feminine happened quickly. The makeup felt strangely pleasant on my skin, and I didn't mind the process as much as I expected. She fitted a hair cap over my head and then carefully slid a long blonde wig into place. It matched her own hair almost perfectly. When I asked where she had gotten it, she admitted she had bought it specifically for me. She adjusted it until it looked completely natural. After that she attached a pair of glove-like pieces to my wrists that made my hands appear far more delicate and feminine. Then she produced a pair of neon pink heels about 5 inches high and strapped them onto my feet. The first time I tried to stand I nearly toppled over. Maggie held my hand and guided me through several slow laps around the house until I could walk without falling. I could tell she was savoring every second of this. Honestly, it wasn't as bad as I had feared, and part of me didn't mind the attention she was giving me. She told me she liked it when I took the feminine role in our relationship. While I was still fully dressed up, she had me do the dishes and various other chores around the house. She spoke to me in a lower, more commanding tone, ordering me to fetch different things for her from room to room. I obeyed, feeling the skirt swish against my bare legs and the heels forcing me to take smaller, more careful steps. Suddenly the doorbell rang. Maggie told me to sit down on the couch and wait. I waited as instructed. Maggie went to answer the door. A chorus of cheerful female voices filled the entryway as the women greeted one another with hugs and laughter. One of them asked, a little too loudly, whether Maggie had actually managed to convince me to dress up. Maggie's reply carried clearly into the living room. Yes, he was completely obedient, and he hadn't even put up a real fight. Footsteps approached. Moments later Maggie walked in with her 5 closest friends. Every pair of eyes locked onto me at once. Someone let out a delighted gasp and declared that I looked so cute I could practically pass for a real woman. Another added that if she saw me walking down the street she wouldn't think twice. She'd assume I was female without a second glance. Maggie told me to stand up and give them a slow twirl. I rose carefully on the high heels and turned in a full circle, the short blue skirt flaring slightly. The women settled themselves around the living room, still watching me with open amusement. Maggie reminded me of the instructions she had given earlier. I was to bring out cups of water and a tray of snacks, then bend low to serve each of them. I returned from the kitchen carrying the tray exactly as she had shown me. As I leaned forward to set a glass in front of one of the women, Maggie's hand came down hard across my ass. A soft moan escaped me before I could stop it. The entire group burst into laughter. One of them exclaimed that she had no idea I was such a naughty little doll. Maggie agreed, smiling, and said I was very naughty indeed, and that she was certain I secretly enjoyed dressing up and serving her like this. I said nothing and retreated to the kitchen. For the next several hours Maggie and her friends talked and gossiped while music played softly in the background. She had taken my phone, so I had nothing to do but stand there in the sparkling bra, tiny skirt, thong and heels. Boredom crept in, yet underneath it a steady current of excitement remained. Being dressed this way still felt strangely charged. At last Maggie called me back into the living room. She pointed to a chair placed opposite the group and told me to sit. Once I was settled she announced that it was time for me to put on a little show. She picked up the television remote and started a playlist of the kind of bass-heavy music usually heard in strip clubs. Then she ordered me to stand and dance. I did my best, moving awkwardly at first. One of the women shouted for me to twerk. I tried, swaying my hips as well as the heels allowed, and the room erupted in laughter again. Maggie reached out, pulled me onto her lap, and instructed me to give her a proper lap dance. I followed her directions, grinding and swaying while her hands rested on my waist and thighs. After a while she told me to move on and dance for some of the others. I went from one woman to the next, performing for each of them. At one point one of the girls simply reached up and tugged my skirt down, leaving me in only the black thong, the sparkling blue bra, the gloves, the blonde wig and the neon heels. The dancing continued for roughly half an hour before Maggie finally switched off the music and sent me back to the kitchen. I waited there again for several more hours until the party wound down. The women eventually said their goodbyes and left. Maggie went to take a shower. About 30 minutes later she came to collect me from the kitchen and led me to the bedroom. As soon as I stepped inside I noticed a pair of handcuffs and a length of rope lying neatly on the bed. Maggie smiled, then gave me a firm shove that sent me tumbling onto the mattress.